Chapter 13. Tentacles Everywhere. Warning, proximity alert, the computer announces. Benny looks up from his work, his face scrunched up. Computer, report. Multiple contacts detected. Collision imminent. Missiles or something? He calls up a sensor feed window on his monitor. Dren! Negative on missiles. Objects are non-explosive. Benny taps some commands on his console and looks at the main display at the front of the bridge. The image is zoomed in on one of the objects. He blindly reaches over to another console, fumbling for a button. Will? What exactly do your metal monsters look like? What? They look like squid, sorta. For those of us not familiar with squid, Benny says, eyes never leaving the main display. Oval main bodies with a bunch of glowing red sensor things. Tentacles coming out of the back, lots of them. Claws and other stuff at the ends. A pause. Why? Oh, nothing. Just a dozen or so of them are about to land on the Ghost. What? Hurry up and get this bulkhead open. I'm on it. From somewhere, he hears several loud clanks reverberate throughout the ship. Computer, engage external defenses. External drones initiating contact with foreign vessel. Foreign entity has penetrated firewall Z7. Internal defense drone losses exceeding expectations. Activating maintenance drones to begin recycling damaged units. Will, I have good and bad news, Benny says, looking intently at his screen. The banging on the hull has gotten louder and significantly closer to the bridge. Shoot, Will says, the tension evident in his voice. I can open the bulkhead that leads to the airlock. In the background, Benny can hear banging. I assume that's the good news? It is. I can't isolate just that bulkhead. I'll have to open them all. I'm sorry. Benny looks up at the ceiling where more noises are now coming from. Will sighs. Okay, wait a second. There's a loud crunching sound from somewhere down the main corridor off the bridge. Okay, Benny, we're ready. Do it. Will looks around him at the grim and terrified faces. Maxim and Zephyr are on either side of him. Prathia, Jorlu, and Zan are behind them, flat against the door. Gabe is standing in the middle of the group. Over the comms, Benny counts down. 3, 2, 1. On 1, the bulkheads all snap open. Run! Will shouts. The scientists dash down the corridor, just as the first mechanical squid enters the room. Call your targets, Maxim says through clenched teeth. Our weapons will overheat. No need to rush it by shooting the same targets. Fall back, Zephyr says, firing her rifle into a tentacle that is reaching for Will's leg. Just then, from every corridor in the room, dozens of squid things erupt. Shit! Back, back, back! Will shouts, over the sound of tentacles scraping the walls, floors, and ceilings. Calmly, Maxim says, Top right, firing one of his rifles in fully automatic mode. Plasma blasts rip both drones and corridor plating to shreds. There are too many! Bottom left! Murta shouts, firing his rifle into the mass of red-yellow sensors and tentacles. Benny, can you close those bulkheads? Zephyr is running backwards as fast as she can. She's right behind Gabe, firing around his tall humanoid figure. Maxim and Will are in the lead. It doesn't take them long to catch up with the fleeing scientists. Faster! Will shouts. My legs are half as long as yours, Zan screams back, terror visible on her furry face. Maxim picks her up without missing a beat. Hey, this is much better. A tentacle whips out and slashes across Gabe's back, sending him crashing into Zephyr, which sends her sprawling forward. Maxim and Will spin around and immediately open fire. Another tentacle slices through the air, nearly catching Will in the helmet. Murta isn't so lucky. A tentacle lances out of the mass, stabbing right through his leg, his suit armor doing very little to protect him. His scream is one of the worst things Will has ever heard. Will fires a single shot, severing the writhing metal appendage, leaving half a meter of it sticking out of Murta's leg. The armor seals itself around the appendage. Will leans down and helps the Harrith man up, bearing his weight. No more pizzas for you, he grumbles. Gabe is up and helping Zephyr gain her footing. "My apologies," he says to her as they both run. The team turns a slight bend to find Jorlu standing at the airlock to the Ghost. Will stops, looking through the transparent portion of the hatch. On the other side of the outer door, he can see the white plastic material of one of the Ghost's boarding tubes. The soft atmosphere-filled tunnels connecting the airlocks of both ships. Boarding tubes are better than full EVA, but only slightly, since they will still be in full freefall the entire time between vessels. At least there will be handholds, he thinks grimly. Sacrifice. "Benny, we're at the airlock. Coming over now," Will says, touching the control to open the inner airlock door. "Have the ship ready to fight and fly when we get there." The door replies with an angry-sounding beep, just barely audible over the rifle fire coming from Maxim, Gabe, and Zephyr's pulse pistols. "Damn it," Will growls. "Gabe, get over here and open this any way you can." "On it," the bot says, squeezing past the clutch of scared scientists who are pressed up against the door. "Will, we can't keep these things back for long," Zephyr says as Will takes Gabe's place in the group firing at the squid things. "My rifle is almost out of charge, and I've only got one power pack left," Maxim adds. "And I have no power packs left." With one of his smaller arms, Gabe reaches behind him, offering up 2 more power packs. "Here." Will passes them to the ex-peacekeepers with one hand, while still firing his pistol with the other. Then he pulls his own rifle free of the attachment point on the back of his armor and starts shooting. "Warning, hull breach imminent in main corridor," the computer announces. Benny taps a few commands into his console. "Guys, you better hurry." He taps another control, and the hatch to the bridge slams shut. He can hear the locking bolts engaging. Elsewhere in the ship, similar hatches are closing off key sections. "Everyone listen up. As soon as Gabe gets this hatch open, make sure your suits are sealed. If we can't get the outer hatch open fast, I'll blow it," Will says, downing another squid thing as he speaks. "Weird they're not really piling up and blocking the corridor," he thinks idly, as Maxim puts several shots into one, its sensors going dark. "Something must be pulling the damaged ones back out of the way." "Hatch opening," Gabe announces. The moment it opens, he steps inside and begins disassembling a panel. "Get ready. This one will not be as difficult." "Cover," Zephyr says, lowering her rifle and replacing the power pack in just seconds. She's firing again. "Will." The squid things are barely 10 meters away and closing on them every second now. Tentacles are whipping about wildly. Will sees that both Maxim and Zephyr have scratches and dents all over their armor, the clear plastic steel face shields similarly scratched. "Squints. You're out the door first with Gabe. We'll follow." As the scientists turn to enter the airlock, a tentacle shoots past the defenders, its claws grasping onto a piece of Prothea's suit. Before anyone can react, she's flying backwards into the mass of glowing sensors and tentacles. Will makes a grab for her and misses, but Maxim, possessing much faster reflexes, grabs the short Pelorian scientist by the ankle. She lets out a squeak as her movement comes to a halt, and the stretching starts. The outer airlock hatch snaps open. Gabe grabs Zan and hurls her through it, sending her sailing precisely down the center of the docking umbilical. Jorlu, needing no encouragement, follows under her own power. Gabe turns and grabs Will by the back of his armor and hurls him out the airlock too. "Gabe!" Will shouts as he floats down the length of the white plastic-like tube, connecting the two ships. "What the hell are you doing?" he shouts, more loudly this time. In a single swift motion, Gabe lunges past Maxim, grabbing the metal tentacle holding Prothea and snapping it in his hand. In the same motion, he grabs Zephyr's rifle, while hurling Prothea out the airlock. "Go!" It would be a shout if it were coming from anyone but Gabe. Maxim turns to fire, and Gabe grabs the big Pelorian's rifle. "You too, Maxim!" A tentacle glances off the device welded to Gabe's back, its function still a mystery, since the one person who knows its purpose, Zarix, isn't on speaking terms with the crew. It was Zarix who hired the team to steal the crate that held a deactivated Gabe in it from a secret storage facility space station. "No, There are too many, you can't. Maxim grabs his pistol, firing at another mechanical squid thing. Gabe hefts each rifle in his main hands. Each secondary hand already has a pistol in it. He turns and opens fire with all 4 weapons. I will cover you. There are too many. We'll cover you, Murta says, hefting his rifle and firing, balancing on one leg. His wound is openly bleeding. He's ashen. More tentacles lash out, scratching Maxim's armor as Gabe and Murta fire. He turns, pushing Zephyr out the airlock ahead of him. Fish and visitors. Will is still looking back at the dreadnought when he hears Jorlu scream. At least he thinks it is a scream. Using the altitude jets built into his armor, he spins around to see that the connecting tube they are in is no longer doing the connecting part. The end that should be connected to the ghost is fluttering in the atmosphere that's venting out of it. And, in the middle of the tube, a squid thing is standing. Before he can shout to Zephyr, who's the closest armed member of the team, she spins and fires her pulse pistol into the thing. Its glowing red sensors dim just before it collides with Jorlu, sending it and her tumbling out of the remains of the tube, still more or less toward the ghost. Zan, Prothea, use the jets in your suit. Get to the airlock and get in. Don't wait for us. Will tilts slightly, seeing another squid push off the hull of the ghost. Apparently, whatever they use for propulsion works in space too. Lovely, he thinks. Blasting the squid thing as fast as he can, it drifts past the ruined tube, away from the ship. Zephyr, get Jorlu, and go around to airlock 2. Roger that, she shouts. All business. Fighting in space sucks, under the best of conditions, and having 3 floundering scientists drifting around definitely makes this not good conditions. As Zephyr jets off toward the flailing Burzod scientist, Will takes another shot at a squid thing that's prying at something on the ghost's soul. Leave my ship alone. Benny, report. We've got 9 uninvited guests. Automatic defenses took 2 of them out before they broke the blaster in the main corridor. I'm having a hard time keeping them out of the ghost systems. The worry in the small alien's voice gives Will pause. He's never heard him this scared before. Disable the auto defenses now. Zan and Prothea are about to enter from the port side, and Zephyr and Jorlu are coming in from the starboard. Done. Please hurry. He's terrified, Will realizes. Maxim, Gabe, Murta, where are you guys? Will shouts, and he spins himself around. He sees Maxim coming down the tube fast. Behind his faceplate, his face is a mask of stone. He has a pulse rifle aimed just past Will and fires. The remains of a squid thing clips Will and sends him spinning before he can right himself. Warning, maneuvering thrusters fuel at 10%. Please recharge at your earliest convenience. The suit's computer offers, sounding far more chipper than it should be right now. Will reestablishes eye contact with Maxim. Where are... Get to the ship now, Maxim says, as he sails past Will. Where's Gabe? Will shouts, turning to look at the dreadnought and the remains of the docking tube, which is still connected to it. Warning, maneuvering thrusters fuel at 5%. Please recharge immediately, the suit nags. The airlock Zan and Prothea had entered is closed, so they're likely inside the ship. Safe-ish. Will toggles a control on his wristcom. Gabe, where are you? Where's Murta? We have to go! Gabe is holding a pulse rifle in each of his larger hands. The smaller manipulators are alternating between firing pulse pistols and swapping out power packs for the rifles. He's down to just 3 power packs left. Over his comms, Will asks, Gabe, where are you? Where's Murta? We have to go! Captain, the only way you and the rest of the crew could escape was to keep these drones from spilling out the airlock after you. The hack I employed, while opening the doors quickly, also made closing them impossible. We would have been overrun the moment we started falling toward the ghost. That isn't your call, Will shouts. In fact, it is. Gabe dodges several tentacles, locking his arm down on them, while Murta fires his rifle into the sensor eyes of the drone they are attached to. Murta is wounded, and his suit is compromised. If it weren't for an emergency force field deploying over the outer airlock when the tube was ruptured, he'd be dead already. A tentacle manages to grab onto one of Gabe's smaller arms and pulls it from his body. Sparks erupt from the damaged socket. Captain, you must get aboard the Ghost and depart before Myrta and I succumb to the drones. At that, the bot closes the connection. Myrta leans against the wall behind Gabe, firing around the tall droid. Valiant speech. Gabe nods. Thank you. Myrta shakes his head. Captain, I still think you're a low-life pirate, he says, before closing the connection. Gabe tilts his matte black head, optical sensors shining brightly, then turns and fires several more shots into the mass of glowing red sensors and whipsawing tentacles. Almost immediately, he is tackled by a drone. Myrta shoots at it, before catching a tentacle across the faceplate of his suit, shattering the plexiglass screen. Gabe reaches out to help the fallen Harrith man when a tentacle grabs his arm, then another, and another. A squid thing grabs one of his legs and pulls it free of his body. He sees a squid thing slide past him to hover over Myrta, tentacles pinning his arms to the deck. Interrupt. Foreign life forms have departed vessel, except 2. External defense drones have penetrated the foreign vessel. Attempting to take over foreign computer. Interrupt. Mechanical life form detected. Do not destroy. Assimilate mechanical entity. Destroy foreign biological entity. The past. James has taken him to a bar Will has never seen before. Guess I shouldn't be surprised. This place used to be what? A steakhouse? He looks around. It sort of reminds him of a bar on Fury. Seafood place. I can't remember which one, but it turned over about 2 years ago. Seems to be doing better as a bar than a white tablecloth joint. James raises his glass, and Will clinks his against it. God, I miss beer, Will sighs, putting the glass down. No beer in space? Screw that, James exclaims. I'm retiring tomorrow. No way, I'm out. Will laughs. Well, there is sorta. Grum, they call it. I still haven't figured out if that's the brand or the type of drink, or what. Everyone just says Grum, and they get handed this lager-like drink. Nothing amazing, but it's wet and does the job. He takes a sip of something quite a bit darker than a lager, and sighs again. Does the job of, James asks, without thinking about his answer. Will says, dulling the pain. Is it that bad? I mean, you're here now, you could stay. Just leave an anonymous tip about where you parked your ship. I'm sure you can figure out a way to get you a clean ID, or something. James takes a long sip of his own beer, never taking his eyes off Will. I mean, how hard can it be? People fake their own deaths all the time. In the movies, Will says. No, I can't stay. I wasn't sure I should come, but figured it might be easier if I had stuff from home. I mean, at least then I could watch Star Trek when I'm bored. He grabs a handful of peanuts. Plus, even if I did try to start over as someone else, I'm an astronaut, man. That's not something I can just go do somewhere else. Everything I've seen and done, both here and... He gestures over his head. Out there. You think I could sit still after all that? Yeah, that's fair. But still, you're not really making it sound all that great, so why go back? Will nods slowly. I think seeing the city again and you is making me more melancholy than I would be otherwise. I mean, dude, before I came here, I had some aliens dump a ton of super knowledge right into my brain. I can field strip weapons, make basic repairs to my ship. He smiles. Some seriously Matrix-level shit. Do you, James starts, know Kung Fu? He smiles at the shared joke, making a karate chop motion. No, I asked, but it doesn't really translate. James sets his beer down, almost empty. Think we'll ever be ready? Will takes a last sip of his own beer, setting the empty glass on the edge of the table. Someday, yeah. I mean, the GC isn't all that different from, say, I don't know, Earth as a whole. Some planets are absolute third-world shitholes. Others are like New York City, but on a planetary scale. One big city. Bureaucracy for days. If I understand correctly, the GC, the Galactic Commonwealth, won't even talk to Earth until two things happen. One, we leave our solar system, preferably via faster-than-light travel. And two, the entire planet is unified under one government. Will makes a motion, pulling his hands apart like an explosion. Apparently, it hasn't ended well when an ununified world tries to deal with the GC. James whistles and Will continues. It'll be rough. The GC is the government, dysfunctional and all. But really, they just keep the peace and collect taxes. They're actually why no one has come to Earth. James raises his eyebrows as the server drops off two fresh beers. There's a rule. Primitive worlds like ours are protected. I guess a few hundred years ago or more, it was pretty common for pirates to find primitive worlds and sell the population into slavery. Pick a world clean, sell it all off. He takes a sip of the new beer, sighing again with pleasure. So good. Anyway, some couple hundred or whatever years ago, the GC established really, and I mean really, strict punishments for any ship found in protected systems. James looks at his friend. Then how did you survive out there? Like anything, there are rule breakers. I got picked up by some freelancers who were laying low by the orbits of the outer planets. If the pod had malfunctioned but stayed on course, I'd be dead for sure. It was complete luck that they were out by Neptune's orbit. They picked me up, gave me a choice, cabin boy or airlock. Princess Bride style, James laughs. Will laughs with him. Yeah, actually, though Lanksham didn't do the daily reminder that he'd kill me. He looks down at the table. But he did give me his ship. He pauses, then says, Man, I should have named the ghost whatever the ship was called in Princess Bride. What was that? James reaches over and pats his friend's arm, shaking his head. The Revenge.